Alana knows very well how to be kind and gentle and compassionate and understanding of each individual's needs. And I say that only, Aaliyah, because I spend more time with Alana, and I know she's very good at that, and I'm sure you are as well. Um, and so I'll just read. Are there any questions about what we've covered so far? No questions?
I think it's perfectly clear.
Okay. I like that, Aaliyah. Straightforward, shooting from the hip. How do you know when it's over? Sometimes the storyteller's pace slows down and they begin to reflect on their experience over time, offering words of wisdom or broader insight into their life. Sometimes there is an arch in the interview, 20 minutes or so of a life history at the beginning, then stories connect to the specific oral history topic, and then broader life reflections. Sometimes it just takes being in the moment with your storyteller. Do they seem tired? Have they been talking for a while? And now are they looking at you for the cue to the end of the interview? Does the interview feel like a complete history? Maybe you've had an amount of time dedicated to the interview and the time is up. And I think that's important consideration to ask, to let them know that it's maybe 45 minutes to 2 hours, but what time do they feel comfortable with? And even if they do give you a time, let's say they say, well, I think I can do this in an hour. I think I feel comfortable in talking for an hour. Um, that might be too taxing for them. They may find that they really don't have, enough to talk about. So I think it's important to be flexible. Now you're going to have some real talkers. I actually asked one business owner, Phil Young, and you met him, Aaliyah, at the event back in September 2014. He was the one who was playing the R&B music, and he was the drummer. And so I talked to him on the phone to ask him if he would be interested in participating in this project, because he has a really unique family history and business history in Harlem. His family is one of, I think it's his great grandparents started a business, a flower shop, and it was one of the first African American owned businesses in Harlem. Then he took over the business for 25 years, but always had music as his passion in his heart. So now that business, Carolina's Flower Shop, is closed, and he's running a music business. But when I talked to him on the phone, I wish I had had a recorder, because he talked for almost over a half an hour on the phone, just talking about all sorts of things. So you'll find some people where you won't have to direct the conversation that much with questions, or you won't have to try and get them to talk. You may ask them a question and they're just off and running. And he's that type of person. So he'll be fun to work with. Then the final, after the interview, make sure that they sign the release forms, the data sheet. Make sure that you get a photograph from them and any of the photographs of any of the documents that they bring, any memorabilia. And then make sure that you thank them for their time. Ask them if they have any further questions, and then that's it. And then the library has some other resources that you may want to participate. They're going to have a blog, and they have some online resources, and they're going to have special events that you may want to participate in to help promote the oral history project. So that's the process. During the course of the past year, from May 2014 to May 2015, they were really very aggressive about getting interviews, and I think that they got about at least 35 interviews, which was the target. And so they would have meetings, regular meetings, to see how people were doing with this. And one of the things that was really kind of pervasive is that people are kind of nervous about doing interviews. And so one of the suggestions was, with one woman in particular, was to interview her family members first, so that she can kind of get over the nervousness of doing the interview. And I know when I was younger and had to talk to people and do interviews, I was like so nervous. But the good thing about it is, if you are nervous, having some support, some paperwork to use as a guide, having a list of questions is helpful. Also, even like interview, and maybe if we have time, or maybe another time, you can interview each other. So you can gain a sense of, comfort and confidence in going through this process. So if there are no questions, yes, Olivia.
I do have one question.
Okay.
When on number 4, when it talks about checking out the neighborhood history kit, we can't. I know that we do have to read the manual, but we can't really call and contact and ask for the kid unless we already schedule an appointment with an interviewee.
Yeah, I think that's I think it's going to be a lot more flexible now because the majority of the interviewing process has taken place.
Okay.
And so I think during that time there was more demand for the product, for borrowing the audio equipment. I think now we probably have more flexibility. So you may say, okay, you'll contact the library on let's say like a Wednesday and say I would like to borrow the equipment, and certainly you can use this equipment, and then maybe have the meeting scheduled for that Monday or Tuesday. I don't think it would be a problem in holding on to the equipment. I think last year it would have been, but I think now that the process has slowed down, I think that you have some flexibility. So I hope that answers your question. And when you do the interviews, as we talked about in the beginning, we would like to do an audio for the library and then a video for our organization, for Harlem Renaissance, and also, and both of them would be available for you as well. So
another question.
Yes, I love questions.
It was for number 1 when it says to find a storyteller. I don't want to make it seem like we're trying to
Trying to what?
I don't want to make it seem like we're trying to look in the neighborhood and just single out people, but would there be places like the churches around or businesses around?
Yeah, in fact,
there should be a list on here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you have the list of business? Yeah.
Okay, I think that answers my question.
Right. So Alana and was instrumental in putting together the list of businesses on Excel. We haven't. I've spoken to people informally, and they've expressed an interest in the program. But since it took us a while to get it launched, I didn't want to reach out to them, send them information, and then nothing happened. So within the next week, I'm going to get the information out to them. Actually, this week I'm going to get the information out to most of the businesses who have email. So they'll get it by tomorrow, and then if it's possible, we can start getting on with some interviews next week, because
I think that's perfect.
Yeah, so because we have 3 weeks, we have 3 weeks left in January to do this, and so what I see as your role as a college intern is one to conduct interviews during this period, and I would recommend doing it with Aaliyah is going to be involved, so I would recommend pairing up, because that would just make it easier. Mm-hmm. Because we want to videotape, we want to audio tape, and then we want to actually conduct the interview. And I will be at every interview to just facilitate and to make sure that things go smoothly. So I envision having two people, one person asking questions, the other person maybe kind of handling the equipment, and then maybe during that time, depending on how long the interview is, you can switch up and somebody else can answer the questions. And then hopefully I can do the video, because I want to capture not only the interview itself, but I want to capture the whole process of how we set up and just the different steps and that we go through just to launch this whole thing. Because I often get a lot of questions or a lot of comments. You do so much, you get so much done. How do you have so many things going on your plate? And so I think this is a way for me to share with others, how to get things done, how to do a project, how to start, how to plan, start, implement, and then bring it to a close. So that's why I want to document that. Mm-hmm. So I had come up with some questions to ask, just from my perspective. And then I was in a meeting with some people, and they made this wonderful suggestion that why don't you have the young people come up with the questions, because that has so much more impact, because you're going to ask the questions that you want to have answers to, rather than ask the questions that I think that are important. And it's going to take me a moment, but I want to find my questions. And so I would like for I'll Alana or Leah or Eric, you can write down a couple of the questions that I have, but then I would really like for you to come up with some of your own questions. Let's see. And you may want to turn this off now because I don't know how long this is going to take.